So, welcome back to the channel, Carl,
Jade,
and we finally have
Carter,
baby Carter. So, what are we talking about in today's video, Bubba?
We're going to talk about our labor and delivery, experience.
Our experience.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen the labor and delivery video, check it out on our page. But today we'll be just kind of discussing and reflecting back on that experience.
Yeah. So we'll start with how I went into labor.
Right here in this house. So I was working. From my experience, what I remember is I was working. It was a regular day, and we had thought that he was going to come early, right?
Yeah.
I think the general consensus between our family members and ourselves, just coming down to the final weeks, was, this baby was going to arrive early, and we were throwing out dates on when we thought it might be. And I think
my date was right.
Your date was September 28th, right? So that was the day that the water broke. Your date was right, but that's not the day that he actually got delivered.
Well, all right. Yeah, we'll get to that.
Gotcha. So I'm sitting here. We had the room set up a little bit differently. You can see from the video if you watch it. I don't even remember. I was like, I was working. I worked from home, so I was working, and then Jade comes out of the bedroom. No. You were bouncing on the ball, and you said, "Wow, my water broke."
I just got off the phone with the doctor. So what happened was Carter was supposed to be induced. We had an induction date for Carter, which was originally our dating anniversary, October 6th, right?
Which is that's crazy within itself.
Right.
He was supposed to be due on the day that we started dating 2 years prior.
Right.
But anyway.
So then I got the call from the doctor saying that our induction date had to change to a day earlier, which is kind of annoying because I had like a certain doctor I wanted and so on.
You were very, very dead set on that.
About having a certain doctor. So anyways, I got off the phone with her, literally hang up the phone. I went to bounce on my ball. I bounced 2 times and my water broke.
And this happened within a span of
5 minutes.
Not even.
Yeah.
It was probably 3 minutes from the time the phone hung up to her water breaking on this ball, and that's when I guess the energy in the room shifted.
Yeah. Well, for me,
for both of us. That's when it became very real, which I think you'll see reflected in the actual video.
I think you kind of see like panic on my face in the video. Because what happened was then I tried to call the doctor right back, tell him, no, hey, my water just broke, like I have to go. Like, what do I do? Do I go to the hospital? Do I wait?
It's now. His time is now.
Yeah, and nobody was answering the phone when I just hung up.
That's right.
Yeah.
Nobody was answering, so I think what we did right away was we called our family. We had everybody, we kind of rallied the troops. And I think that my mom, my sister, and your mom were here within 20 minutes or so, and we were off to the hospital.
Yep.
So that was an exciting experience, I would say.
Yeah.
But not nervous. I wasn't nervous when it happened. I was more, I guess, what's the word? Like, I don't even know. I guess it just hit me. It hit me like, okay,
it finally set in that it's about to happen.
It set in. So it wasn't like nerves, like, oh my God. Like it's now, but it was more like excitement.
Yeah.
It was more excitement, which I think is super reflective.
So let's fast forward now. So we're like in the hospital, right? Mm-hmm. So we get to the hospital. I'm only 2 centimeters dilated. Before this, I was 1 centimeter for about a couple weeks. I was only 1 centimeter dilated. Then I get to the hospital. I'm only 2 centimeters dilated. But
when we got there, I thought that we were gonna be.
You thought he was coming like this? Yeah. No, that's not what happened.
When the water broke, I thought that we were gonna see Carter within, I would say, hours. Yeah, within hours, 4 or 5 hours, realistically.
No, that's not what happened.
It didn't go down.
So what happened was the first nurse came in because we saw probably like 20 nurses, honestly. Mm-hmm. The first nurse came in and she was like, did your water break? Yes, yada, yada, yada. But she took my word for it that I had completely ruptured. When your water breaks, sometimes it doesn't break like all the way, which mine hadn't, which we found out later on in the process. But she pretty much took my word for it, like, yes, her water is completely broken. She did not check me, and this is a key part. So she did not check me to see if my water broke completely. So now fast forward, it's hours are going by. I went into labor at 12:30. It's like 4 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock. Nothing's happening. My contractions are like every minute, like they're like minutes apart. But I wasn't dilating. So I got to like 5 centimeters. I finally decided to like get an epidural. When you get epidural, there's like a myth that like you don't feel anything, which isn't the case at all. You feel pressure, but you're not supposed to feel pain. Does that make sense?
Right. And all of this was very interesting because we went through this experience just us two.
Yeah.
In most cases,
there's family.
There's support systems. You can record.
It's just us who's never had a kid before, never been through this before.
It was just us two, and then on top of that, they were like, yeah, phone's got to go.
Yeah.
You can't record. Yeah. So we thought that was a little weird, but nonetheless, it was just us. So
yeah.
We're
kind of just like completely trusting the nurses and the doctors, like whatever y'all say. Like
I think that kind of shaped the experience too in a different way.
Yeah.
Because we only had each other to kind of lean on, and
yeah. So what was I saying? Oh, so 4 centimeters. So I got the first epidural, but I'm still feeling pain. And finally, the doctor was like, something's not right. Like she should not be in this much pain with an epidural.
And from my experience, so since I was the only one in the room, I could clearly notice a shift, I guess, from before you actually got the epidural. So how long from when we got into the hospital until you received it? Right, like give or take, just to put it in perspective.
So I got to the hospital at 12. Like we got to the hospital at like 1.
Like 4 or 5 hours.
Right? Probably like 4 or 5 hours before I got epidural.
So I would say in the first those first hours, what we're talking about, that gave me the most anxiety. That's when I was the most uncomfortable. I had the most uncertainty, and I would say you were showing the most
pain,
the most discomfort, to where it was almost like, how are we going to get?
How is this gonna happen?
Yeah, how is this gonna happen? Because we were how many centimeters dilated?
When I got epidural?
Right before it.
4.
Like 4. So we weren't even halfway.
Yeah.
You have to be 10 centimeters. I was watching her progress from, I will say 1-4, but it seemed almost like excruciating. Like if we had to switch spots, like I wouldn't want to be in that position. So seeing it from that perspective and being so early in, and expecting him just to be here, you're like, okay, he's got to be coming. If she's in that much pain, he's there, right? Like he's got to be right there. That's because she's so showing pain. All these signs of pain, all these signs of discomfort. So I was a little like was it unease?
Yeah.
I had unease.
You were uneasy?
Yeah, I was a little uneasy during the first few hours of that time until the doctors actually came in. And when they came in to give you the epidural, what is it, the anesthesiologist, he actually explained to me that I couldn't be in the room.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay. He's like, you gotta go. Now you're on your own.
Yeah. Mind you, I am terrified of needles. And this needle's like this long.
Yeah, so you have to pick it up from there.
Yeah. So the needle's huge, and it's not one needle, and you feel it going into your spine. So anyways, that epidural didn't work, pretty much, long story short. I'm still feeling all of this pain. Epidural's not working. They're hesitating going back. The doctors and the nurses are hesitating going back and forth. Like, do we give her another epidural? Do we not give her another epidural? Like, what do we do? She shouldn't be in this much pain. I was pretty much like, give me another epidural. So what happened was they put the epidural too high up into my back. So the next one they did, they had to do another one lower.
How much time elapsed in between? Because it was quite some time.
It was a long time, because right when I got the second epidural, I started pushing for him, and he was born at night. I pushed like maybe an hour, so I probably got that epidural around like 7.
Right.
Yeah, maybe 7, 8 even, maybe like 8 o'clock.
And when you received that, so they made me leave the room. I was still in the room, but it was kind of sectioned off, like partitioned off. So I could still hear everything, but I couldn't see. But after that, it seemed like that actually worked pretty well for you.
Yeah.
For an extended period.
Oh yeah, epidural was great.
It worked well. So after the first epidural, I was like, okay, we got this.
After the second epidural.
Well, no, even after the first one, you definitely showed signs of, like you were able
like relief a little bit.
Of relief, but more so like you weren't you weren't complaining about the pain. It was almost like you didn't notice it for quite some time until you progressed further into your contractions. When your contractions started expanding is when you started feeling pressure.
Pain. That's why I had to get a second one.
Pain, but they said that you were supposed to
feel pressure.
Right. So speak to that a little.
So then I got the second, that's well exactly what you said. I'm supposed to feel pressure, and I was like, this is not pressure, this is pain. Like I feel my contractions. So then I get the second one, and we pretty much start pushing right away. And luckily for me, like my parents told me that too. They were like, you had a good doctor, or a nice doctor, I should say, because normally they don't let you get epidural so close into you pushing. Because what happened was when I was actually pushing for him, I couldn't feel my contractions because I was so drugged up. So she was asking me like,
that was very clear in the video. Yeah. You can see that you're not fully
I look
there at all, which is good. Which is good from the standpoint.
She was asking me like, when you feel a contraction, like let me know. You start pushing, and I'm kind of like guessing. Like I think I feel one coming because I really don't know. I'm drugged up, can't feel nothing. But eventually I start to feel the contractions. I only pushed for about an hour, and my guy here was born. Now, the part that made it the labor so long is because in actuality, my water had not fully broke. While I was pushing, the doctor had actually broke my water completely. He had used the bathroom. He went number 2, which caused an infection.
This is when it kind of got
also, because I was in labor for so long, I was in labor for over 24 hours. When you're in labor for over 24 hours, you're at a higher risk of infection. So I got sick, I got a temperature, the baby got sick because I got sick, all because the other doctor did not check to see if my water was fully broken.
Right, at the very onset.
At the very beginning. Which caused Carter to be a NICU baby, so he had to be in the NICU.
For much longer than we would have liked.
Yes. He originally had to get checked out right after birth anyway because he had water on his kidneys and he had to get an ultrasound. But this caused him to be in the NICU he was in the NICU for like 3 days. And we had to advocate to get him out because they would have kept him in much longer. Yeah. So yeah.
I'm trying to think of what parts that we...
What did we miss?
Yeah, we did. So we didn't speak about the tailgating.
Oh yeah.
So since we couldn't have our family physically in the room, and I couldn't actually leave. I could leave the room, but I couldn't leave the hospital. What we did is we had our family come and tailgate outside of the hospital. So they actually sat down. They brought drinks, chairs.
They had a sign.
They had a sign. They found our window outside of the hospital. We kind of helped coordinate, where we were. And they supported us. They set out for the first day. So they weren't there when he was actually born, but the important part was they showed up. They showed up. They hung out for hours. We could see them physically outside of the building, which was nice. So.
And we're gonna talk about the Zoom call.
And in addition, so since, like we mentioned, the pregnancy went longer than we initially thought it would. Our family couldn't.
The labor went longer.
The labor went longer than we initially thought. We couldn't stay outside, or we couldn't have our family stay outside for 48 hours. So they stayed outside. They supported us the first day. Then night came. The next day arose, and we actually had included all of them on a Zoom call. So we had some of our close family. I don't think there was any friends.
No, it was all.
It was all family. They were actually able to watch the majority of the actual delivery via Zoom call, and pretty high quality.
What was really cool funny about that, none of the doctors or nurses knew that we were doing that. So it was kind of like we had to hide it.
We were low key about it because from our understanding we could be recording. We thought that we could record, but we were told we couldn't. So we didn't want to necessarily challenge that. So we just put up a camera, I set up a distraction.
Carl had the camera hidden.
I had the computer,
behind his book bag.
I had a whole bunch of stuff set up, and then I had the camera kind of perched up behind it, and then I had like a computer with the light on to the left of it to divert the attention to that. But we were successfully able to have that Zoom call, and our family watched via Zoom.
Like live, they saw everything.
So if you're giving birth during the pandemic, keep that in mind. You can include people in via Zoom call.
And there's a lot more people on there than I originally thought was going to be on there. Like, there's a lot of people that watched that happen. But, yeah.
I guess I should probably speak more about my experience.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't know what to expect going in. Obviously, Carter's my first child. I felt like we both did a good job of communicating during the process in terms of kind of supporting each other.
You did a really good job being there for me.
Yeah, just kind of being positive, uplifting. I would say for you, once we kind of got into it, you were obviously dealing with the contractions, with the stress, just trying to stay focused. So I think that I was mindful of that during the entire process. I had mentioned it was very stressful at the very beginning, just seeing you deal with the pain from the contractions and how excruciating it was at the very onset. That caused the most discomfort because I was like, if we're 3 centimeters, 2-3 centimeters dilated and we're hours in, I was like, I don't know. I was like, I really don't know how we're gonna get to 10 centimeters,
Yeah.
So that was the most, that caused the most discomfort for me.
Yeah.
Or gave me the most anxiety was the first few hours.
Yeah.
Then we had the anesthesiologist come in, they gave you your first dose of...
I actually had 3. I forgot one. Remember the IV?
The IV, yeah, you had the stuff in the IV. But that's not an actual...
No, that was a painkiller.
It's a painkiller, but it's not a... what do they call it?
Epidural. No, it's not epidural,
Right.
but it's another form. Like, people do that sometimes instead of the epidural.
Got it. So I would say after you received the first epidural, I definitely had a lot more peace of mind. I knew that we were getting closer. I think that it was still amazing to watch you deal with it because you're small, you're tiny. So I think that I was amazed. I was in shock. One at how much pain you were actually showing, then how you bounced back from that after the epidural. Right, after the first epidural, it was amazing to see you bounce back, and I could kind of sit back and be like, okay, now we're just kind of racing against the clock again. It's just a time thing, like when is he coming, but at least she's okay, and then over time, the pain started building up again, and you were feeling this pressure, and you needed to push, and you kept saying, it felt like every 10 minutes you were like, call the nurse, call the nurse, call the nurse, and I kept asking you, okay, why? What do you want me to tell the nurse? And you were like, I'm in pain. And the whole time, from my perspective, it was like, okay, well, you're going to be in pain, right? Like, you're giving birth, you're going to be in pain. They never said you're not going to be in pain, and you're like, just call the nurse, call the nurse. So when that started progressing, I knew that we were getting closer, because you had already received the second epidural, and it was just, like I said, it was a matter of time. So then when it was actually time to start pushing, I was there, and I watched everything happen. That to me wasn't traumatizing. I don't know if most people consider it traumatizing, people who look. To me, I think it was more amazing. It was like, okay, when the doctor said, come on, she instructed me basically on how to hold the leg up. That was really the only instruction she said. She said, you're gonna hold this leg up and we're gonna start pushing.
To me, there's whole methods on like how to push, and like it's not just like you push. It's like hold your breath, don't make noise, push going, put all your energy going downwards, and like
right, which is very important so you don't hurt yourself or strain anything. But I think that was probably the most amazing part of it was when it was time to push. I actually felt like I was hands-on.
Yeah, you were, literally.
So I was taking direction directly from the doctor. There was another nurse holding up your other leg, and now it's just like, okay, now it's time. So I didn't do anything. I think that I did a great job of kind of just keeping you calm and kind of telling you what you needed to hear in that moment. Just, he's here, just breathe. Kind of very basic, comforting, just communication. It was just a good dynamic, and I think that it was nice for you to have me there because there was nobody else in the room in terms of family.
Yeah, obviously.
And then I think once you started pushing, Carter, I could see his head, I could start to see the hair, and that's when I was like, oh.
And that's when
he's right there.
That's when I got the mirror, and I would recommend everybody get a mirror just because it's like motivation.
So very early into the pushing, the doctor had asked Jade if she wanted to see, which she obviously said yes. So you can speak to that, to I guess how that helped you and helped you get through the actual pushing. But once his head came out, I saw his hair. We had the doctors there. I think that's what gave me comfort, was I knew that there were qualified people around us. We had a great experience with St. Peter's as a whole. So I wasn't stressed in that moment when you were actually pushing Carter out. I knew that I was there to comfort you. I knew that the doctors had everything in their hands, and I knew that you were doing a great job of just kind of listening and taking direction, as well as concentrating on your breathing and what you were supposed to be focusing on in that moment. And I guess within 5 minutes of that starting, Carter had arrived.
Well, there was a slight moment where I was like, my heart dropped.
I didn't know if you wanted to get into that, but you can.
Yeah. So I mean, if we're gonna.
Yeah.
So when Carter first came out, the first thing I think when you push out a baby, you're supposed to hear him cry, right?
Right.
So push Carter out, and it's quiet. And immediately I started panicking, right?
Yeah, she immediately started
panicking.
Out. So basically his head was fully out, but his shoulders were not.
His shoulders didn't make it out.
They weren't coming out, so the doctor had to twist him to just kind of guide him out. And when she did that, when he first came out, maybe from like 5 to 10 seconds, he just wasn't making any noise at all, which was concerning. I mean, it was concerning for both of us, but it was obviously a lot more concerning for you. And I think my initial thought was just to keep you calm in that moment until something happened, because nothing had happened. They literally just picked him up. Doctors, I think 10 doctors rushed into the room, and it was just silent. And then you instantly panicked. And then I think I said exactly like, he's okay, he's fine, they got it. And then maybe within 10 seconds of that,
I heard him cry, and I was like, whew. But that's scary. That's the longest 10 seconds of my life, not hearing him cry.
And then we were blessed.
Yeah.
We were blessed.
He's been crying ever since. So Carter was born at 9:44. He was born the next day.
September 29th.
September 29th.
9:44.
7 pounds, 8 ounces, 20 inches long. So he was a pretty decent sized guy.
Pretty healthy baby.
Yeah.
And I think that overall we had a great experience.
Yeah.
I think that the nurses, the staff, kind of.
The labor, I should say this, the postpartum department was amazing. Like the recovery process, because I literally couldn't do anything. It took a whole squad for me to go to the bathroom. I couldn't
We were
walk.
very much a team, and I feel like we felt very connected and very close during that.
To each other or to the nurses?
No, to each other.
Oh.
During the postpartum experience, because we just went through, the labor process together. So I feel like, those couple days that we were in the hospital after, we were very, very close. I basically had to help you do everything. And then we were also just in shock that our firstborn was just born. He just arrived. So I think all of those emotions were kind of like, life-changing in a very rewarding way. And just kind of like a look at God moment. Like, this just happened, and he's here, he's okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I know, I feel like there's a higher power.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. If you want to follow Carter's journey as well as ours, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell icon, so you get notified every time we upload a new video. And we appreciate you watching. See you on the next one.